It's been 2 years and your baby is out.
Yes.
Yeah. What can you remember about the day when you decided that this is the thing that you want to do?
That must have been sometime in November 2015, because I was looking forward to turning 60 in 2016. And I was talking to my Russian friend about doing the Trans-Siberian, only because I read about it in the NST. So it ended up as a journey from London all the way to Malaysia by train. And I thought, okay, this is big enough for me to be able to write a book about the experience.
What went into the planning?
My planning was really pitiful. That's why I suffered, because I didn't plan long enough ahead, and I was chancing it a lot.
You started from St. Pancras on the Eurostar.
Yes.
What were you thinking then? What were your feelings? Were there any doubts at all that you could do this?
It's like this is the river of no return, right? Once you have committed yourself, you have to go ahead. There's no such thing as turning back.
Okay.
Okay, the most beautiful place, heavenly place, is Lake Baikal. It was tough getting there. 6 hours in this van, in virtually going on a dirt road. It's like the rodeo. And after all that, and it was very cold at that time when we were taking the ferry, and the skies were grey when we arrived at the homestead, Nikita Vencharov's homestead. I went with a couple of Chinese girls to look at the lake. It was all grey, and miserable. But the next morning, it was transformed like magic. The sky became blue, and the lake was blue, and everything was wonderful. And it was the most peaceful place, one of the most peaceful places on earth for me.
Where would you say you had the most difficulty in communication?
Communication, when I arrived in Russia, in Moscow, I went up and down the railway station and not a soul could speak English until I found a kiosk selling phone cards, SIM cards. So I managed to communicate with that guy. And it was at that point, before I spoke to him, that I felt so lonely right from the pits of my stomach. That loneliness, and I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing here, And then once I got the SIM card, voila, I have Facebook, I have WhatsApp, so the world was open to me again.
Did you talk to me about your travel companions, people that you met along the way who were on some kind of journey as well, their own journey? How did you get along with them?
Yeah.
What were they like?
Okay, on the Trans-Siberian, I made several friends among Russians, and we are still in touch now. And also a French girl. And after they left, on my final day, I was bullied by some ignorant Russian women. So that was the bad bit.
What did they do?
They bullied me in many ways. First was when I went down to say goodbye to my friend. I came up and suddenly my suitcase from underneath the seat, another seat because mine didn't have much space, another bunk. Somebody had removed the bag and left it in the aisle. And it was when the train moved, suddenly my bag was all over the place. And I tried to put it back. The space was there. The women wouldn't let me. And
tell me about this lady who sang.
Oh yeah, this was on the night train from Warsaw to Moscow. I got up at 7, went for a shower, the only train that had a shower. After that, no shower.
Which is what train is that?
The Polonaise train, beautiful new train, from a Russian train that I took from Warsaw to Moscow. And so I went to the buffet car to have coffee, and I heard singing in the kitchen. She said something about come round. So I went round to the end. She opened the door and came out and sang a few arias to me. You know, one was Carmen. And then she came and sat down with me after she served the coffee and sang to me. But one thing about these Russians, even though they are ignorant, they never stole from me. You know?
Where was the experience of being something being stolen from you?
In China, and I broke my own rules. I remember I said earlier in my book that I have to be careful because a person who's traveling with too heavy luggage and looking at a map, you know, not knowing where they're going, would be would be a potential victim. And true enough, I reached Beijing in the hot sun after lugging the bags up and down steps, no escalators, funny enough. And just to save money, because the taxi drivers were trying to fleece people. And I stood outside on the road looking at my booking and trying to find my way. And this young man came up to me and said, "Oh, hello, where are you going?" So I showed him my booking. And he said, "Oh, I know your hotel, it's just near here, I can take you there." And I was so grateful to have somebody help me with my bag, right? So we just crossed the road, and then he said, "Would you mind if we have some tea? Because I want to talk to you. I'm a student of business English." And I thought, oh, why not? You know, I am very naive. I trust people, and I like making friends. So I take people at face value. I don't read, you know, into their motivation. I assume people are sincere. So I even gave him my card, and he was flattering me big time in the tea house. But I thought he was just being an idiot, you know. I mean, I've got grey hair, you know, I'm an old woman. I'm not interested in this tea shop. The front had plastic sheetings like the one you get in the butchers or behind the supermarket, right? The no-go area. And we went in, and there was nothing on the ground floor. He took my bags upstairs where there was a lounge area, and with tables and, you know, stuff, and only one waitress. So I asked for one pot of tea. And then he said to me, "I want you to try something." So he went to the back and brought 2 glasses, burgundy color. I knew that must have been wine. So I just sniffed and said, "Sorry, I don't take alcohol." Then along came another pot of tea and another. I only ordered one. And then I thought, this is a bit funny. I said, "How much is all this?" He said 1,200 yuan.
How much is that in pounds?
That's
or
like
ringgit?
140 pounds. And I was trying not to pay 150 yuan they wanted for my cab fare. And I wasn't going to be fleeced. The metro ticket was only 3 yuan. Anyway, I said, "I'm not paying that." And he stood up and said, "You drink, you pay, we share." And he took out this gold card, probably fake. And I thought, yeah, no way, you know. And at that point, the warning bells were sounding. I thought, oh shit, I'm being scammed now. So I thought, okay. I said, look, I don't have any money. I took in my pocket the balance from the 100 yuan I used for the metro. 97 yuan I was throwing away. That's like 50 ringgit. It's still money, you know. A lot of money to me. And anyway, so I gave it to him, and then I said, can you give me some for the metro? And he took 5 yuan and threw it on the floor. Why? Why throw it on the floor, you know? And so with my heavy laptop, can you imagine, I have my MacBook Pro in my bag, 4 different cameras of, you know, different sizes, and 3 phones for, well, whatever reason. One brand new Samsung, and £500 cash and cards galore. And I thought, okay, I've got to get out of this. So I gave that money, and so I bent down to pick up my bags. He pushed my hand and said, and took the bags from me. I'm a gentleman. Can you beat that? Somebody who threw 5 yuan on the floor for me to pick, a woman old enough to be his, you know, mother, and then tells me he's a gentleman, and for that reason he's carrying my bags for me. So
That must have been, but you came out of it unscathed.
oh, there but for the grace of God go I, right? You know.
But after that, now if we stay in China, because no point going to China without going to the Great Wall of China.
Oh, that was great.
I would like to describe to me the experience with your bad leg going up.
I have a prosthetic knee, right? A partial knee replacement, and it had been giving me problems. I was limping a little bit. I'm still on painkillers, and I went to Mutanyu, recommended by another person from my hotel, because it's quieter, he said. It was hot and quite steep in parts. The last part was like that, you know. It's incredible. But I did it. I carried my bottle of water, thankfully, because it was they were charging like 100 yuan. Anyway, it was not an easy climb. You have to stop a lot, and you know, and there was good reason to stop, of course, to take photographs. It was nice.
So how did you feel when you got to the top?
Oh wow, it was. I felt well. You know, at that point, all you want to do is get to the top, right? And then you only feel the sense of achievement after you come back down to you know, after I came down the steepest bit, I felt like, yeah, I did it, you know. And the funny thing, I was, you know, I had to ask somebody to take my picture. And
Okay, take me to another place, weather-wise, what?
oh, let me take you to Mongolia. This is August, end of August, right? And the sky is so beautiful, very beautiful blue, like at Lake Baikal. And my girl, the camp is owned by a Malaysian guy, Kelvin Chong. And I was telling him I wanted to go, I had 5 nights in Ulaanbaatar. I wanted to go to the countryside, stay in a camp. And he said, oh, I have a camp in the Tabledge National Park. The next day, his relative drove me there. And we went to see Genghis Khan's statue. It's huge, 40-meter statue with a museum inside. Very interesting place. And the journey was, it was a beautiful drive, lots of mountains around, and we saw camels, and you know, lots of girls, real used by real nomadic tribes, you know. And then when we arrived, you know, there were like 10 girls in this valley and surrounded by mountains of different colors, you know, different types of vegetation and rocks with orange on them and all that. It was beautiful. But very cold at night, and you have to go outside to use the toilet. It was terrible. And I slept with layers, all the layers I could find. I was still cold. And Kelvin's mother-in-law, who was running the camp, I was the only guest. She piled on all the bed clothes from the other beds on me before I slept.
Where would you say you feel at home? You felt at home?
In Hanoi. Hanoi, because Hanoi was the first place out of China, because by then I just wanted to get out of China. And Hanoi was so comfortable. The hotel had beautiful teak furniture, and the staff greeted me so beautifully. I was met at the station, and you know, you pay 10 US for that, but you know, it was a long journey. I felt it was worth it. And then I was met at the door by the reception staff, and then she sat me down and said, okay, we are going to your room is not ready, but you can go to another room to freshen up, that kind of thing, you know. I've never had that kind of treatment in any hotel.
This Odyssey, is it something that you will do again?
Yes, indeed. Number one, some people ask me why I did it alone. This is a journey you have to do alone, because it's my Odyssey. Odyssey is like it's a journey home with all the challenges, just like Homer's Odyssey, you know. So I face a lot of challenges before and after, during the journey.
If someone wants to do this, yeah, what advice would you give them?
Okay, the most important is your preparation, you know. I made a big mistake. Like your bookings, your even the route to your hotel or hostel should be clearly printed out, you know, so that you don't get fleeced, you don't get conned by anybody, you look like you know where you're going. Just look at the map before you leave your station, and so you don't look like you're lost, you know. So you need to be confident in order not to get cheated. That's,
and then what about luggage? Things?
And luggage, just drop the kitchen sink. So one suitcase, if you can, and
backpack.
yeah, backpack. I had the laptop. Don't take the laptop, please, you know, and all the so many electronic things that you end up carrying. But the other thing, food. I needed to bring lots of dry food because I was on a budget. You know?
Yeah.
That was not negotiable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Okay, one last thing, yeah, on a positive note.
Well, the world is a beautiful thing, and there are lots of lovely people out there. People, even in China, I had people come to help me with my bags and all that. There are nice people everywhere. One thing I must share with you. In 2009, before I left my last full-time job, I was admiring a young colleague who used to travel by herself. And I said, Matsi, don't you feel lonely when you're traveling like that? Because I'm such a chicken, I hate loneliness. And she said, no, because God is with me. And I remember at that time exchanging glances with another colleague, like, you know, and then my faith became stronger in the meantime, and I never traveled without God, you know, and without leaving everything to Him. I plan everything, good planning or bad planning, but at the end I try everything and I say God will help make it happen or not happen, you know. And true enough, He helped me